Let's now shift our focus to Thailand, where anti-government protests continue to take place across the country. In the latest act of defiance, thousands of Thai protesters marched to an army barracks unit to challenge the Thai king's personal control over some army units. The demonstrators continue to break the taboos by criticizing the king in a country where insulting the monarchy is a crime. Protesters, many carrying the large inflatable ducks which have now become a protest mascot, stopped at the gates of the 11th Infantry Regiment, part of the King's Guard that played a role in the suppression of the anti-establishment protests in the year 2010. Lines of riot police blocked protesters at the gate, and protesters accused the monarchy of enabling decades of military domination. Demonstrators have been demanding the resignation of Thailand's pro-monarchy Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha.
หน้าที่ในการดูแลกำลังพลถวายความปลอดภัยอะไรก็ตามเนี่ยมันหน้าที่ของรัฐบาลที่ประชาชนต้องเป็นคนเลือกนะครับผมดังนั้นการที่กษัตริย์จะลงมาบังคับบัญชาโดยตรงเนี่ยถือว่าเป็นการแทรกแซงก้าวไก่การทำงานของรัฐบาลและเป็นการครอบงำและเป็นการขยายพระราชอำนาจจนไปทับกับอำนาจของประชาชนเพราะทหารต้องเป็นของประชาชนไม่ใช่ของกษัตริย์
Meanwhile, according to a report, Twitter has suspended a pro-Thai monarchy account which was among thousands of profiles which were sharing posts favorable to King Maha Vajiralongkorn. Now, this is part of an ongoing social media campaign to spread favorable information and discredit the monarchy's opponents. These protests have been ongoing for months now, and thousands of Thai protesters, mostly students, have time and again blocked major Bangkok junctions in protest against the government and monarchy. Joining us now with more updates from Bangkok is Dr. Thitinan Sudhirak, a professor at the Institute of Security and International Studies at the Chulalongkorn University. Thanks so much for joining us, Professor. Now, this recent act of defiance is unprecedented as Thai protesters marched to an army barracks unit to challenge the king's personal control over some army units. So tell us, what is the situation on ground in Thailand as of now?
Well, the situation, of course, is very fluid. Very tense. It's been like this for some weeks now, since July when the protests restarted after COVID. So we're going to see more tension, I think. Now the authorities are cracking down by using legal instruments to suppress the student protesters, and they at the same time are not stopping. So we're seeing an escalation and more usage of draconian laws to put down the protests.
Right. Now, this criticism of the monarchy is rare in Thailand. In fact, it is unprecedented. And the protests are mostly led by students. So do you see any actual reform arising from this movement?
Well, it's a long uphill task for the protest movement. They've succeeded so far in making the monarchy now a topic of conversation, a subject of debate, whereas before the monarchy was off limits and it was a kind of a taboo subject to discuss publicly. So to that extent, the protest movement has succeeded in making the monarchy part of the conversation of the political dialogue. But what they want beyond that is to reform the monarchy after calling for the resignation of the prime minister, a new constitution, monarchy reform. This is a tall order. So it will take a long time, and it will involve a lot of discussions, negotiations. So in the short term, we're going to see more tension likely, but no change in the short term.
Right. My final question, Professor, has the monarchy or the government responded to any of the demands so far? And do you even see that happening in the near future?
So far, we have not seen the three demands being met in any way. Resignation of prime minister, new constitution, reform of monarchy. And in the near future, on the establishment, the monarchy, royalist, conservative side, they have a lot to lose. So I think that these demands are pretty tough. At the same time, they have entrenched interests. They're unlikely to make any changes in this environment without some real contestation.
Right. All right, Professor, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all your insights into this news development coming in from Bangkok.